Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call. Mr. Albrecht?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Hall? Here. Mrs. Roop?
Here.
Mr. Teray?
Here.
Mrs. Galbraith is here. Mrs. Gasparo?
Here. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Albrecht, would you read the mission statement, please?
Certainly. Our mission statement: to ensure that every child is challenged to reach his or her full potential academically, socially, and emotionally as they grow and develop into thoughtful, productive, and contributing members of society.
Thank you. You may have noticed there's a new face sitting up here with us tonight. I'd like to welcome Dr. Kara Coglanese to Crete Monee School District 201U. She's been appointed full-time interim superintendent for the 2018-2019 school year. She earned her doctorate in educational leadership from Roosevelt University. Her background includes superintendent experience at 2 local school districts. We will be having a meet and greet for her before our August Board of Education meeting, and we welcome you all to meet her then. In the meantime, if you are at the central office, feel free to stop by and introduce yourself to her. So welcome, Dr. Coglanese. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much, President Gasparo. I am absolutely delighted to be here. Since the first day I came here in the district, I was greeted with lots of smiles, so many helpful people, and just what a great community that you have here. So I feel very privileged to be able to serve you in this capacity for this year. I'm most excited about the high school play that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to be the Aladdin, I heard. So yes, there we go. A shout out to those in the back. I got a chance to stop by and meet some of the folks in there. And what a great group of people. So my husband and I, who also, he grew up here in the district several years ago, we're going to be coming out to see the play probably during that weekend. So you'll see both of us then. So anyway, I wanted to thank all of you that have made my start here just so wonderful, so welcoming. I'm truly looking forward to working with everybody. I have an open door policy, and I really encourage people to come and talk with me. I am also trying to find opportunities to get out and talk with you. Over the course of this year, I'm looking at putting together a superintendent's advisory council. I'm looking for parents and community members that would like to work with me and talk and tell me a little bit about some of the things that you would like for this district, and so that we can kind of work together this year. So if I haven't talked with you, please stop by and see me either at the end of tonight, send me an email, get in touch with me, and I will contact you, and then we'll work on setting some things up. So I certainly welcome your involvement and as we work together this year. So anyway, it's going to be a great year. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Nelson, we have 8, so I have a couple of minutes. We have 8, so
Okay.
3 minutes. Okay, good evening, members of the community. Thank you for joining us tonight at our July Board of Education meeting. Last month at the June meeting, we passed a new policy pertaining to cell phones and electronic signaling devices. The board and administration discussed this policy over several months. The policy passed only after lengthy discussion, taking into consideration the pros and cons, as well as how much it would affect the student learning environment. There are community members who have reached out thanking us for change, just as there are others who disagree and believe the policy to be too restrictive. We are aware that some students do not agree with the new policy. For those of you here this evening and those watching at home, we want you to know that we respect and appreciate your voice. The board understands both sides of this issue, but ultimately the new approved cell phone policy will take effect with the 2018-19 school year. The Board of Education will support the administration in their full enforcement of Board Policy 7:193. Also at the June meeting, a consensus was reached by the Board of Education instructing administration to move forward with the facility planning process. The initial framework has been presented at numerous public committee of the whole and board meetings. They were presented at April 10th, May 8th, June 12th, and the June 19th meetings. Please see our website to view this facility plan presentation. The district looks forward to working with the entire community as we further develop plans for the future of our facilities. The Board of Education recognizes the rights and desires of the public to express their thoughts and concerns through a public comment. We will limit the number of public comments on any one topic. If you're a member of a group or organization involving the same issue, you should coordinate your comments with others to avoid repetition. Persons making public comments will be allowed 3 minutes. And please note that the Board of Education's practice is that our members do not respond to the public, and the Board of Education will not engage in debate. The full list of public comment guidelines can be found in the public comment forms at the main entrance of the auditorium. Thank you. First,
You said that you were going to limit, but you didn't say how many can speak on the subject.
well, I looked through here and there's only, from the ones that I have, we have 3 on cell phone policy, and since we're going to limit it to 3 minutes, I'll let all of them speak. All right, first up, Alexandria Wilson regarding cell phone policy. Did I say that right, Alexandria?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, welcome.
Okay. Hello, my name is Alexandria Wilson. Okay. Can I start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I agree with the policy, but there's a different way that we can go about this by not making it so harsh. There are so many ways that our generation today can benefit from using the amazing technology that we have today. We can send emails, submit papers to our teachers, and etc. There are so many productive ways we can use cell phones for educational use, but a lot of these things we use in a positive way can also be turned into a negative way. Some people might say the reason why we need the cell phone ban because us millennials spend so much time glued on our phones that we need to have a break from them. One thing adults fail to realize is how much technology helps us in our everyday lives. A lot of adults throughout this past weeks have said such things as, you will survive without a phone because we did back in the day. But we would never see any of the new advancements in our society or worlds change. We would never see any of these new advancements in our society. Our worlds change. Each generation has that thing that's new and different from the last generation. Like when they first came out with digital games, kids always want to play those instead of doing homework, and they also wanted to bring them to school. So what did the world of education do? They created educational computer games because they thought that's what kids were interested in. They also brought in laptops and iPads because they thought that's what kids like. They also taught kids how to use these aids responsibly. So why not use this as an opportunity to teach kids how to properly use them, understanding that this is a part of our generation and a great tool to use to communicate at appropriate times. It is more than one way to bring peace, discipline, and authority into our school. Kids also use phones to cope with things such as anxiety, which is diagnosed in 20% of teenagers. The way phones can cope with anxiety while in school is listening to music, which soothes anxiety, reduces pain, and etc. Some of the causes of anxiety are family history of mental health conditions, personally factors, physical health problems, and one that pertains to school is ongoing stressful events. Kids often get stressed if they have a lot of homework or a major test coming up, which can trigger anxiety. So having a phone to listen to music before a test can be instant therapy to someone who needs it so they won't have a panic attack. Another thing I would like to talk about is the fact that there's no specific evidence that points to the conclusion that the ban is necessary. From 2012 to present day, there has been approximately 1,580 technology violations within Crete Monee School District. The word technology is very vague due to the fact many things nowadays are considered technology. So we do not know how many of these violations happen to be cell phone offenses. Another point I would like to bring up is that there isn't only Crete
Miss,
Monee.
please wrap up. It's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay, great.
Crete Monee, oh sorry. So we don't know how many of these violations happen to be cell phone offenses. Another point I would like to bring up is that this isn't only Crete Monee High School, but the entire school district, which includes 9 total schools. If you do the math, 1,580 divided by the number of schools is 107.5. And if you want to get deeper, then divide that by the number of school years being 6. Then that number is 32.6. Violations of technology per year, considering there are more than 1,000 students
Miss-
per school, that's
Miss-
pretty good.
We have to cut your time. We have many public speakers
I'm
tonight.
done.
Thank you.
Next up, Julia Cox regarding the phone ban. Do you have comments other than those that were already made? Different points? Okay, thank you.
Can I start?
Yes,
Okay. Phones don't cause fights, environments do. We as a predominantly Black school need to stop oppressing ourselves and each other through this jail-like statute. This system has already set us up to fail, and we should not further perpetuate that energy by now degrading us to children who are not capable of making our own decisions. Instead, we should get to the root of the problem and look into character building workshops as well as spiritual and goal-oriented intervention. People who want to fight are going to fight regardless. If phones were the problem, why don't other schools deal with the same issue? So phones are clearly not it here. It's something deeper, and honestly, I feel like this was an easy rule to create just so that it can look like something is being done to combat the problem. However, this may end up just being even more detrimental. So my question to you is, why does the board want to pose such a policy, and did the board thoroughly do its research and look at what other districts are doing and data that says we need this change?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Diamond Jackson regarding cell phone policy.
I'm Diamond Jackson, and I'm the vice president of Crete Monee High School. She didn't formally introduce herself. That's my president. So, the new cell phone policy is counterproductive and harsh. I feel that it should be removed. It will take away the instruction time we do get with pointless stressing of this policy. Teachers and administrators are going to be so focused on phones that the quality of the school will decline. We already have a problem with this. I predict a lot of hostility and anger over this policy. It will be a constant back and forth with no solution. Also, it will make it harder for kids to learn. Yes, parents have been able to excel without the use of technology when they were in school, but it's become increasingly easier with the help of it. Not to say that we aren't learning, but it's a tool that we use. The world is changing, and we'd be crazy not to take advantage of it. Of course, we ask questions. Of course, we read the material given to us 10 times before, but unfortunately, sometimes it isn't enough. Some teachers will tell you not to ask questions. Some teachers will tell you to use the resources. Well, what do we do when we have used all the ones given to us, and there's an instruction time unwilling to help? My point is, if you're running a marathon and you have water, but the person next to you has Gatorade for the electrolytes, are we going to ban it because it isn't necessary? Times are changing. There's a time when calculators weren't a thing, but they are helpful and safe to use now. Phones are helpful and save time. Of course, there will always be students who goof off, but we must punish those who use it as a helpful tool as well. So my question is, why was this decided to bring versus something more reasonable?
Thank you.
Okay, next up I have a comment from food service workers, but there's no name regarding uniforms and the decision to go with uniforms. Welcome. Can I get a name from whoever's going to speak for the public comment forum?
Jennifer Santa Maria.
Thank you. Welcome.
We just have questions concerning the uniform. We want to know whose idea was it? How much is this going to cost the district? Why the change after all these years when we were just told to wear shirts and visors? We're in full uniform and some of the kitchens in the district do not have air. It is a health issue and can cause health issues for overheating. Is this in our new contract? We haven't seen yet. Would have been nice to have been discussed with us. We've only heard from word of mouth, and we would like to get to the bottom of it. We don't want the pants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katrina Johnson regarding UP and the plan. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to address this board as a beloved community of University Park. We, the beloved community, we are here to express our vehement discontent at the proposed facilities management plan approved by the school district's 201U board. In particular, we're opposed to the closing of the Coretta Scott King Magnet School and the Talala Elementary School due to the effects it will have upon the children of University Park and the community of the same. Research shows that approximately of the 2,000 schools in the nation which close every year, 53% of those lie in suburban areas. Moreover, when schools close, the students most adversely affected are African American students. Neighborhoods with school closures have lower college completion rates than those communities wherein investments are made in schools. This concern is compounded when the effects of the closing on the communities is considered. When schools close in neighborhoods, it is usually evidence of disinvestment and more often disenfranchisement of the members of that community. Lack of schools and communities signals a lack of concern and lack of value placed on the children of the community as well as the members of that community. When schools are snatched from communities, economic expansion is erased and community destabilization is increased. We declare that the devaluing of our communities and our children must stop now. While it is true that there are health concerns in the schools, it is our contention that as taxpayers, funds that would be used to build schools and expand other schools should be allocated to developing, expanding, and modernizing Coretta Scott King and Talala so that communities are not fractured by the exit of the schools and its adverse effects on the children. It is not lost on us the historic disregard, disrespect, and devaluing of this school board for the community and the students of University Park and also Park Forest. From the times of the consent decree until now, it appears that decisions of this board have primarily been constructed around race. Consent decree, busing, and now the threat of school closings all ring of decisions that invest in communities other than the predominantly African American community of University Park. This is unfair and unacceptable to the taxpayers and citizens who live in University Park in this district. Therefore, we as this beloved community of University Park and others who have signed this petition letter demand the following. One, the board of CM 201U cease and desist with the current facilities plan, which results in the closings of Coretta Scott King and Talala elementary schools. Two, that the aforementioned facilities management plan be altered to include investments to update, modernize, and develop Coretta Scott King Magnet and Talala Elementary. 3, that the Board of CM 201U adopt the 2015 Facilities Management Plan as written by former Superintendent Nathaniel Cunningham. 4, that the board would perform the necessary upgrades to all facilities in 201U as presented in the Safety Management Survey. We expect to hear from you within 2 weeks of receiving this letter.
Thank you.
Sincerely and seriously, the beloved community of University Park and Forest Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown, you're out of line. That was not necessary. Next up, Sandra Hurd regarding school closing issue and expenditures for new building proposed. How will these be funded other than, taxpayer in the township? I think that's what it says. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Sandra Hurd. I am the assessor for Monee Township. It's been a while since I've been here to the board meeting, but I was energized because I've heard of some of the things that's going on or being proposed in the facility management planning project. I don't see it on the agenda tonight, so first thing I'd like to know is when these items are going to be discussed further. I'm assuming that it has not been finalized at this point, but I know you're probably not going to respond. But some of the issues that I've heard from it is school closing. Yes, and I ditto the group that just stood up here. I would not like to see schools closed in the communities that they're really servicing and they have good results. There's no reason for us to be taken backwards. So I'm standing against that, removing Coretta Scott King and Talala from the communities as they are doing a good service. And my next question or comment is in regarding to the expenditures that you will have for the building construction project. I would like to know what are your expected fund sources other than, and that's what I was saying that you couldn't read, was that from the taxpayers increase, because as assessor, I just hear it all the time, and people realize that the school board is their biggest expenditure on their tax bill currently. And I would like to not see all the taxpayers get further strained with that burden. But I would like to know what are your other alternatives for funds for these projects? And again, when will we be discussing these issues in more detail? Because I don't see them on the agenda unless I just missed it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Sharon Daly Gabriel regarding improving curriculum and laptops. I'm not going to read this whole thing. You can tell us what it says. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns. I am a resident parent, and my daughter goes to Monee Elementary. I just wanted to bring up everybody in these new plans for Plan 1 and Plan 2, there's quite a bit of emphasis on sports fields, new fields. I know that Monee Elementary has one computer lab for 6 grades, K through 5, one. I would like to see the curriculum expanded, and I understand the point to advance. I'm also a realtor. I see people moving out of, as Ms. Hertz stated, because of our taxes, because of the schools. Our grade level, when people shop for homes in all of our communities and surrounding areas, they look and they shop for a home in a school district. Our school district numbers are so low, it's not enticing to people to come here. I understand that we want to improve that, but by improving sports facilities, I don't really think that that's going to advance our curriculum, which is what we need to look at. We need to look at possibly Chromebooks for all of our children. We need to look at advancements, not just sports. With that being said, I'm not opposed to funds being spent on additional activities, but Monee Elementary just got music and art back 2 years ago. We had no music teacher, and we still share them for 6 months out of the year with another school. I remember when my daughter was in kindergarten, her kindergarten teacher had to take the children to gym because we had no gym teacher. That was just 4 years ago. So I wonder how all of these districts can afford $92 million when just 4 years ago, we couldn't afford a gym teacher. So, and I'm sure it's all of the district schools. It's not just ours. So with that being said, I would really like you to reconsider the amount of money to advance all of our school districts and put it more toward curriculum than sport, for one. And for two, I agree that most of the parents like their children closer to home for medical reasons. I have another mother who's got a child who has an illness, and to get to them to be traveling when you close schools in the different locations in different areas, it makes it more difficult. Not every parent travels or drives. It's nice that you can walk. Children bike to school. We just got bike racks in our area, So not every child buses. So we need to take a lot of other things into consideration before we put sports and advancing the buildings. Some of the buildings, yes, need improvements, but a majority of them don't. Monee Elementary is fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
The middle school was just improved, and the high school, I think, is just fine.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is James Young, trustee, Monee Township Government, regarding community concerns. Welcome.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Before I begin, did I understand you to say I've got 10 minutes?
3.
About 5?
3.
About 5?
3.
Everybody.
Okay. All right. 3 minutes it is. Okay. I promise.
Starting
about
now.
Yeah, I know. About 2 months ago, I participated in a superintendent search. It included teachers. I saw a couple of principals from this district participate, clergy, and taxpayers from our communities. There was a representation from every community on the superintendent search committee. There was 3 candidates. I don't recall our current interim superintendent being a part of it. And I'd like to know what happened. Dr. Congolese, I think I'm pronouncing that correct. Welcome to Crete Monee School District 201U. I wish you much success. However, this district has a history, and I do believe you have walked into a hornet's nest. I just want some transparency. I want to know the truth, and I want to know what happened. We interviewed 3 candidates. You asked us to devote the time and energy to help in a permanent superintendent effective July 1. We participated. We haven't heard anything, so I'd just like to know. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is that, I've been watching this national investigation. That's the agency the school district hired to do residency checks. And I've been opposed to it ever since day 1. Now, recommendations was given to you about the problem based on past history, and what we know develops into a strong community school district relationship. The board chose to go a different route. I'm here to tell you that you established, and it's clearly documented in the videos of the board meeting, that you established a minimum of $10,000, a maximum of $20,000 to be spent. That figure that you got up there needs to be double checked. I'm working it out with management right now to verify, because we got 3 different figures. I got the figure that I've come up with through the FOIA request, and I've got 2 separate figures that's been documented by the school board, by the school district. Okay? The problem can be resolved. But what I want you to understand is that you're not following your own guidance. You have doubled the expenditure involved. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what National Investigations comes up with, what they have discovered that we didn't know already. Because remember, it was suggested that we had the leadership, the resource, and the staff to take care of our own problem if there was a problem with residency. Well, the board chose to go a different route. No problem. I'll be looking for that final report. And I hope that it includes that residency checks was done on every board member to verify they live in this district, and that National Investigations went to their house, knocked on the door, asked for ID to verify you live at that residence, and every child in your home that's a member of this school district, you have double checked to make they have double checked to make sure they live there too, just like you did to the other students. All right. Now, in terms of the plan, the facility management plan, I think a lot has already been said about it, so my comments is going to be brief. First of all, I don't understand why you want to close Talala. If you got money to build a new Creek Elementary School, you got money to build a new Talala. $6 million can do it, even though it's $6 million in repairs that has been suggested. That $6 million can be utilized to build Park Forest, Talala, brand new school, and keep the kids in their community.
Thank you. It's time. It's time.
Coretta Scott King School. I took a look at the Illinois school report card. It appears that Coretta Scott King is doing something good. I don't understand why you want to close a school that's performing better than any other elementary school in this district.
Sir, we've given you 4 minutes.
Wait, no.
We've given you 4 minutes.
4
Please.
months? Well, give me one more minute.
No.
I have other comments.
Okay.
So
That's
we have
it.
many
Thank
other
you.
comments.
Okay, well, I'll be back. You know I'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we welcome you back. Cynthia Hudson, district concerns, closing our schools in the African American communities. Welcome.
Good evening, board. I'm gonna try to make this fast. Every time I come up here, I ask you all to do the right thing, but it doesn't seem like none of y'all, well, I would say at least 5 of y'all are not doing the right things. Why is it that we're looking at closing one of the best performing schools in the district, Coretta Scott King? When you take Coretta Scott King and close that school, when you close Talila Elementary, you're looking at closing the 2 schools in the predominantly African American communities. You're looking at busing all of the African American students out of their community, busing them to Crete and Monee. You're looking at tearing down 2 communities, University Park and Talila and Park Forest. You're looking at building up 2 communities, Crete and Monee. I have a real big problem with that. To me, that spells racism. I don't like racism, and I'm here to fight racism. My thing is, I ask you all constantly, lead with your hearts. It doesn't seem like I'm seeing a lot of heart up there. I want to know also, first of all, congratulations in coming to this hornet's nest, as James said, because you don't know what you got yourself into. I hope you can handle it, and I hope you have a heart, and I hope you do the right thing. I would also like to know, how was you even brought into the district? I would like to know who brought you into the district. Everything that James says, I echo that. And I'm gonna let James finish his comments and take.
No.
Okay.
We have to move on. We have other comments.
Do you have it written down?
I just want to know when you're going to take you out of the school district now, because you stand for unify. It
And
includes
unity.
4 communities, not 2. It includes 4 communities: University Park, Park Forest, Creek, and Monee. That facility management plan only benefits Crete and Monee. It does not benefit Park Forest and University Park.
And we've asked you several times, we've asked the board several times if you all would meet with us on concerns that we have. We haven't had a meeting yet. The school year is over. We're about to start another school year. When are we going to get this meeting? I asked you all last month when you came with this plan, when are you going to share this information with all 4 communities? When are you going to give us a chance, the taxpayers, to voice our concerns with this plan that you have? Are you throwing out true numbers? Is it going to be $84 million with this plan you have, or is it going to be closer to $200 million? How long is it going to take to pay off this debt? The debt that we're in now, we're almost finished paying for this debt, right? But we're going into another $200 million, or as you say, $84 million. How long is it going to take to pay that off?
It's time.
So
Thank you.
I just want you all to know. And President Gasparo, you sent me an email yesterday asking me if anybody reached out to me for my comments that I've been asking for months. An hour after you sent me that email, Ken sent me an email, but I don't think you all have your facts right. You all have, when you send me answers to my question, give me updated information. You all are saying that you only spent $42,968, I believe. It's much more than that, I'm hearing. And I would like to know the results of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. One last one. Our last public comment is from Heidi Gonzalez regarding a brief statement on the plan. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm glad to be addressing, the school board today, but I'd also like to include the public in what I have to say today on the plan and what it means for our district in the long term. First, let me say that I am glad that this board has chosen to move forward with the plan and what it means for the betterment of this school district, for the communities in which it serves, and mostly for the children that we are sending here to educate. This is a hard decision, and one I know that has taken many months of conversations, plans, more plans, dissecting of those plans to come up with something I feel is very well managed and scheduled without taking this to a voting referendum. In my time as a board member, the district community liaison, a member of the Village Planning and Zoning Commission, and a village trustee, and a parent with children in this district, I understand. We now have several buildings with millions and millions of dollars worth of life safety issues. The average age of several of those buildings is 50 to 90 years old. They are simply not conducive to learning environments. Taking this K through 12 district to 5 shiny new buildings that have the capacity for our students, the capacity for the technology in which to teach these students, and the infrastructure in place for an actual future of the buildings, the district, and our communities is a giant step in the right direction. Imagine not having to use a heat day because 4 of our schools don't have air conditioning. We all know that then when that has happened, the community and social media lights up because of it. Imagine a district of buildings that can supply all of our students with the same world-class, equitable, and fair learning environments. With grade centers and our students from all 4 communities in them, they all have the benefit of receiving the same curriculum. Wouldn't we want that for all of our kids? We talk about how much we spend to educate each student. We talk about how much we spend to educate each student in the district. Do you know that if we are maintaining 5 buildings rather than 9, you would technically be able to spend more per student on their education, the technology and the books and the teachers, rather than the O&M budget? Who wouldn't want that for our kids? The last thing I will mention that bothered me the most was a statement about one-way busing. That term was used in this desegregation area and has no use in today's world, and simply isn't the very definition of it if you want to be very technical. and simply isn't even in its use. It suggests that we would be segregating our children, and it's just the opposite. Currently, CSK is a magnet school, and its students are from all 4 of our district communities. Our current middle school buses our students together from all 4 of our district communities. Our high school buses our students from all 4 of our district communities. The ELC and MEC has students from
Ms.
all
Gonzalez,
4 of our
please.
communities.
Please wrap it up.
By having our district have 5 building grade centers changes nothing, absolutely nothing, about the way in which we operate today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're not going to debate that tonight. We're going to move on with our agenda. Next on our agenda is board updates. Community forum.
Ms. Gasparo, before you continue, I would like a clarifying question with Ms. Hudson. Did you state that the question that you asked at the last board meeting was just answered yesterday? And every month coming here stating that her questions are not being answered.
That's why I reached out to her yesterday.
But that's unacceptable.
I agree.
It is unacceptable.
What is the deadline for public comment responses?
We need to be addressing that. Dr. Coglanese, we need to address that.
All right.
That's unacceptable that a community member continues to come here and says the same thing, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 times. That's embarrassing, and it's just unacceptable. What does that say to the community when we're not answering their questions in a timely fashion? It's ridiculous.
Okay, but next up is board update.
Excuse me, I just got. You okay?
Yeah, I want to get on with our meeting.
I want to ask a question. Are we posting these questions online like we agreed to as a board? These questions and answers?
Yes.
So this is Hudson, Miss Hudson. Her question that was asked, you received an answer. Was it posted online?
Yes.
Just as a win yesterday? Or was it posted online before you actually responded?
I don't know when it was posted online.
Okay.
We don't have email on here anymore because we're posting everything online now. We're not putting back individually to people. Can you and I? Well, that's as of May 31st. Ken, would you update that number tomorrow? Tomorrow, that new number will be up on the website. Next up is board updates. Community forum. I know this is something that was discussed tonight. The way we're going to get a lot of this information out on the facilities plan is through the community forum. We have set a date for October 2nd for that. We will be, the district administration and assistant superintendents and building principals will be working on what we're going to call a 201 university. We've discussed it before with you. And we'll have a welcome here in the auditorium, and we will go over cell phone policy and the plan, and then we will have some breakout sessions. So be looking for more information for that, but save the date, and we will be getting save the date cards out to the entire district for Tuesday, October 2nd. Okay. it was decided that we would, rather than rush to get something put together, we would rather have quality information over time, over putting something together too quickly. Okay? I understand, and we have a new interim superintendent now, and we're gonna work on getting the best possible information out that we can. And that date is October 2nd. Okay, administrative updates, district affairs, FOIA update.
Thank you. The update is for June 001. A copy of all information regarding all field trips, information trips, or any time students who are part of the Kids in the Hall Club are taken from Crete Monee High School, taken from January 1st, 2018 through today for the group Kids in the Hall. Copies of permission slips with children's names redacted, bus invoicing and/or contracts, correspondence to parents detailing the purpose of the trips, the method of funding these trips, and food receipts. Requested by Amanda Abram, field June 15, 2018. No documents pertaining to permission slips, busing invoices, and/or contracts, correspondence to parents detailing the purpose of the trips or the method of funding these trips, and/or any food receipts generated during these trips, as these trips are not funded by district money. Time to complete, 6 hours, 36 minutes. June 002, updated report regarding the total amount of monies expended by CMSD 201U for investigative services rendered by National Investigations, Inc. for the period of February 10, 2018 through May 31st, 2018. Copies of all bills received which have been paid and remains pending payments regarding students' background checks. Requester James Young, who has agreed to wait until the final report was complete. June 003, updated report since April 17, 2018 regarding the number of cleared students within CMSD 201U and the number of suspect student/family violators within the various communities of CMSD 201U, i.e. Crete, Monee, Park Forest, University Park. Requester James Young, who has agreed to wait until the final report was complete. June 004, updated report since May 1st, 2018 relative to the demographic information such as grade level, age, sex, race, and ethnicity of all students identified as not being a resident of CMSD 201U. The number who have currently been denied advanced registration enrollment into CMSD 201U schools for the 2018-2019 school year, and the number of students/families referred for legal action. Requester James Young, who has agreed to wait until the final report was complete. June 005, the total amount of money CMSD 201U paid National Investigations, Inc. from October 1st, 2017 through May 31st, 2018. Requester James Young, field July 3rd, 2018, 1 hour, 30 minutes to complete. And that ends the FOIA report for the month of June.
When are we looking for a final report?
I'm working on it now. I met with them today.
Okay, so when are we looking to possibly have a final report?
It is a lot of information, and I don't want to give you any false dates. I'm going to try my best to have it within the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Dr. Clark, with that too. With this report, are we, the district has received complaints about national investigations, correct?
We have received 2 complaints in my office, and I believe you may have received a complaint as a board, and I addressed those. And as I stated in one of our committee of the whole meetings, one of the complaints had something to do with a letter that went out that was not supposed to go out, and so we addressed that right away.
And it was several though, right? Didn't you say it was
was.
several that went out? So when those went out, did we have to then reissue correct letters?
Correct.
Okay, so you've received a couple, the board members have received, I've received several myself from actual parents alluding to inappropriate conversations in regarding to intimidation of parents, saying they need to show IDs, and if they don't, they're gonna have to show it when they come to registration anyway. As a board member, I was not aware of these type of tactics that would be happening at the doors of parents. A lot of them not even understanding what was going on. And one in particular who reached out said that hers was a mistake anyway. So in considering all of that, it's no secret that I didn't support this. In going through their contract, it states that the contract is for 1 year and that the only way to be released out of the contract is if they are being unprofessional. And I believe they are being unprofessional. And so I am saying to this board, this report should include an investigation on that as well. And I believe we need to be stopping this contract immediately. To have these people behave the way they've behaved, not answering emails, not communicating, unprofessionalism at the doors of our parents, that we have to be responsible for how they're being treated. And we say we did reference checks. That's a problem to me. And I'm saying it to you as well as Mr. Surma. That's a problem. This is who you all recommended to the board. When we bring companies to the board, I'm assuming thorough checks have been made. We've looked into seeing if there's been complaints with other districts. I don't know how thoroughly they were vetted, but our experiences here at Crete Monee, I'm going on record as stating, I don't think they've been well at all, and we need to be investigating how these people are treating our families.
I understand your concern, but once again, what we're getting is one-sided. And so I have spoken with National Investigations, and I do believe that they have been professional, and I've actually seen them in action. So I am basically saying I believe they're doing a good job for the district. Thank you.
Can I add just one quick comment? And I wasn't in agreement with this contract as well. Specifically too, as it was written, being an open contract, and we said we were going to expend $10,000 and not really go over that, but we just put money to the side, and our business manager said it was another $10,000. That made it $20,000 that was budgeted for the expenditures for this contract. And I said an open contract gets us in trouble, and here we are. How could we justify, we stated $40-some thousand up there, which is 4 times the value of what we expected as a board to expend. So what's the limit here as a board? Are we okay with this?
Can we get this on?
Are we okay with this? Being an open contract, I said that gets us in trouble.
Dr. Clark, what's the rough idea on how many people they have found that are not supposed to be in our district? And could you share with the audience how much money that is per person approximately?
So far, I have calculated over 400 students that have been out of district, and I'm in the process of doing those calculations. We are looking at the amount that it costs to educate the students in the district, how much we get refunded, how many of those students are receiving special services, what are the costs of the busing, the taxpayers that are the families that are using vacant homes, meaning there is no taxpaying income. There is a lot that is going into this, so I want to be thorough when I'm doing this report.
I would recommend you have it completed and all the I's crossed, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, and give us the actual figures. How much it's impacted the taxpayer, how many millions of dollars versus what we have spent on this, and give us all the figures when you have them, please, because we're going off half-cocked here, and I don't think it's accomplishing anything. I'd like to see the bottom line expenditures versus what we're saving by having people that don't technically belong in our district, and we're supporting them with the tax funds from our community members. I would appreciate that.
And I think we can have this put on our committee of the whole agenda to discuss. I'd like to have it put on our committee of the whole agenda so we can discuss everything from the cost of it all the way down through the report, but I'd like the information ahead of time.
Okay.
And I'm going to remind Mr. Surma to bring the correct figures We had that conversation a couple of months ago, but we're quoting and saying that we're saving 12,000 per student, and that's not the case.
Right, that's why Dr. Clark said she's getting the correct figure, because we know some of that, in that $12,000 is overhead, and you're gonna have that regardless. So,
And
okay.
again, to me, to me, it doesn't matter if it's $5 million we're saving. I'm looking at the contract per se.
Right.
Being an open contract, when the board said a certain number, when the business manager put some figures out there, how far, at what point do we draw the line
That's what I'm
with
saying.
these
Let's have
open
this,
contracts?
we'll put this on the committee of the whole agenda, and we'll talk about all of it. Okay, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Do you want me to read now?
Yes. Dr. Coglanies?
All right, the items on the consent agenda are regular meeting minutes of June 19th, 2018, special committee of the whole meeting minutes, June 25th, 2018, special committee of the whole session meeting minutes of June 25th, closed session of June 25th, 2018, special meeting minutes of July 2nd, 2018, special meeting closed session minutes, July 2nd, 2018, committee of the whole meeting minutes of July 10th, 2018, review closed session minutes, July 2017 through December 2017.
Keep going. Business.
Oh, business items, number 1, approve accounts payable, agenda of bills. Second one, approve payroll for July 2018. And the third item is approve treasurer's report.
And donations.
Donations?
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruth?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Nay.
Mr. Brown?
Nay.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. We have a couple of letters to read. Bear with me while I get this up. To Miss Victoria Hole from Horace Mann Insurance. On behalf of the scholars at Balmoral Elementary School, I would like to thank you for donating 2 bicycles to our school. As part of our end-of-the-year PBIS celebration, the bicycles were given to 2 scholars that made positive choices throughout the school year. Again, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate your generosity and support of Balmoral. From Miss Jontel Perkins, Principal. Also from Miss Perkins to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Duran. Dear Rich and Susan, I can't tell you how much we appreciate your support of Balmoral Elementary School and the children we serve. Your very generous donation of 2 bicycles made an immediate difference in the lives of the scholars that received them at the end of the school year. Thank you once again for your kindness, generosity, and time and effort that you continuously put forth into making Balmoral a success. Also from Ms. Perkins to the Stone family. Dear Stone family, on behalf of the Balmoral Elementary staff, please accept our heartfelt thank you for the delicious dessert treats you delivered to Balmoral during Staff Appreciation Week. Your kindness and generosity is appreciated. Have a great summer. And lastly, also from Jontel Perkins, principal at Balmoral, to the McGrath family. Dear McGrath family, on behalf of the Balmoral Elementary staff, please accept our heartfelt thank you for the sweet treats you provided to us during Staff Appreciation Week. The cupcakes were not only a nice surprise, but they were delicious. Your kindness and generosity is appreciated. Have a great summer. Up next, business. Approve the public hearing date. Mr. Surma?
Thank you. This is just a motion, a recommendation to set the public hearing date for the tentative 18-19 budget for August 21st of 2018 prior to the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting.
And it will be at 6:30 or 7?
6:30, I believe. which is-
6:30, and it'll be published in the paper for 6:30?
Yes, we're just waiting for the approval tonight, and then it'll be published.
Did you say the 17th?
The 21st. 21st.
The motion in our package has that it would be set for today's date. Is that it? You mean for the
Yeah.
August meeting?
No, I think that's today's date.
It says
The-
approve the calendar of the regularly scheduled meeting of July
Right.
17th.
Okay.
Okay. You good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the public hearing date for the fiscal year 19 tentative budget?
Moved.
Second.
Any other comments?
I do have a comment.
Yes.
The posting of that tentative budget, are you going to include fund balances? No.
Yes, there's two reports that I always post. One is the report that I prepare for the board. I will include fund balances on that, but also I do post the ISB form, budget form. I post that also. That includes fund balances also, projected fund balances. So both of those I will include projected fund balances.
Okay. Have we looked at the fund balances, particularly to see if we are required to, I guess, I'm looking for the phrase, the deficit reduction plan that may be required of us by the state? Are we in that zone, so to
No,
speak?
we are not.
Okay.
We are not. We do not have to have a deficit reduction plan.
Okay. Could you just, next time around, share with the board the reason why, the
Sure.
numbers that's telling us that we do not have to?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, I'll
I
do
think
that
that's
in my
important
budget
because
report.
that can slip past us, and
Right.
it almost did once before.
Yeah, and the other thing that will happen is when the auditor reviews that also, they will determine that too, and that because they get our projected budget also. But I'll make sure I include that in the budget report.
Okay, so we
that I have coming up.
So we are at the end of our fiscal year.
Yes.
Do we have any idea where we are with our state indicators, our 5 indicators for financial profile?
I have not looked at that because the auditor determines that.
Right.
And that, so
So
they.
when are they looking at our fiscal year?
Sure, so they have been in already to do some preliminary work. They were in last week to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not last week. They were in the last week of June to do that. They're coming back then in, I think off the top of my head, either the end of August or the beginning of September to do their field work.
Okay.
The goal is to have that audit completed by November.
So
Okay.
we're not going to be waiting like we did
No.
last time?
Yeah, we got caught, for lack of a better phrase, with our pants down, okay? For lack of a better phrase. So this is my last question. You can, this is not a question to put you up under the gun, but I think you should have a feel for it. So our fund balance, do you have any idea? Are we gearing towards the 20-25% range, just in your opinion? I know we're carrying a deficit. We're going to carry a deficit. That's 2 indicators. The third indicator is cash on hand, 6 months. And short-term borrowing, I think we're good with that. Long-term borrowing is good for now, but I'm sure this may go up. But those 3 top indicators, fund balance, basically our expenditures over revenues for our deficit.
Yep.
And our cash on hand.
Yep.
Those 3. In your opinion, are we pretty good with those?
In my opinion, we are. Now, there's a board policy that we have for
25%.
For fund balances
Right.
and that. We are meeting that. If we didn't meet that, the auditor would catch that and they would make a finding on our audit for that.
Okay.
So we are meeting that. The difficulty with fund balances, as you will know, is when we talk about those now, we just had an influx of taxes in, and that's when you end your fiscal year. So,
But that's all predicated, and the state
is.
doesn't care. The state doesn't
No,
care.
the state
It's a
doesn't care.
snapshot in
Yeah.
time.
Right.
So that's why we have to, base play our cards right too.
Right.
We have to maneuver and play the game if we need
Right.
to, so to speak, the legal game.
No, exactly. No, exactly. So,
So-
we're in a good position right now.
Okay.
You know, as we start moving forward again, I'll put some projections together so I have it as part of my budget report from
I
a fund
appreciate
balance
it.
standpoint.
Okay.
So it's there. And that too. I know you mentioned that last meeting, and I'll plan on doing that.
Yes.
So it's
I would
there.
like to see those fund
Sure.
balances. Okay.
Exactly. And then I'll take a look at something with those indicators also.
Please.
And try and do something too and present that also at the same time.
So right now, for the fiscal year, or Y17, 18, was it 17, 16,
18.
17, no, for our last snapshot state profile, that was showing 0 out there. which
Right.
That's still out there right now.
It's still out there publicized. However, we have submitted the audit, and the audit came back with a 3.6 out of 4.
Okay.
And that, they won't
But
change
they won't-
that.
they won't change that on the state.
that at all. And that, I'm projecting we're probably going to be somewhere around 3.6, 3.7 after 17, 18 also when the audit's complete too.
Excellent.
And that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
I'd like to also suggest that since we are not doing this in September as we've been doing, that we put something on our website notifying the public that it'll be in August, because some people may be used to it being in September.
Sure, we can do
And
that.
we can do a robocall about it also.
Good idea.
Yeah. All right, district affairs, approve revised board policy 6:310. Dr. Clark?
Sorry. Basically, this is adding show choir to the PE exemption. There's no other changes to the policy.
I know this was discussed and questions were asked last week. We talked about it at length. Any other discussion? Okay, can I get a motion to approve revised board policy 6:310, high school credit for non-district experiences, course substitutions, and reentering students?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mrs. Root?
Aye.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Albrecht?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Human Resources. Can I get a motion to approve the certified staff employment, certified staff reassignment, certified staff resignation, certified staff intent to retire, educational support staff employment, educational support staff reassignment, educational support staff resignation, and educational support staff retirement?
Move.
I will second it. Mr. Neal?
Thank you. Personnel report reads as follows. For certified staff employment, we have Mara Allen, Jacqueline Bernero, Mary Brown, Anthony Chiuso, Letitia Cole, Tommy Connor Jr., Timothy Saborski, Lisa Garman, Ephraim Haymore, Shannon Hedrick Dills, Jennifer Horton, Emily Kadubek, Megan Perry, Kathy Tade, and Hangshin Yu. For certified staff reassignment, we have Jody Olson, Patrick Moody, Melissa Perskurniak, and Susan Zasharsky. For certified staff resignation, Melissa Benton, Peter Dobertson, Marina Finelli, Tasha Goff, Neil Hodge, Thomas Kubowitz, Ramona Shimkus, and Dr. Latanya Wilkes. Certified staff intent to retire, Jennifer Liston. Educational support staff employment, Diane Cook, Patrice Franklin, Erica Hamilton, Mary Layton, Taryn Millender, Florence Morales, Michael Perkins, Corinna Prasada, Sarah Tedeschi, and Tanara Washington. For educational support staff reassignment, Alicia Abrego, Donna Bilo, Kelly Hallberg, Tashonda Hopkins, Bridget Johnson, Teresa Lyons, Jennifer Pratt, Maria Cerna, Wayfam Thomas, Susan Walsh, and Eve Word. For educational support staff resignation, Nita Payton, Wendy Plymert, and Marina Stewart. And finally, educational support staff intent to retire, Kenneth Tompkins. And that ends the personnel report.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
We do have a motion. Is there questions?
I do. HR Assistant Superintendent, have we ramped it up as far as trying to look for minority candidates when we seek for hiring per our board policy and per Illinois School Code? We lost quite a few African-American staff, management staff over this last year. It seemed like, and we didn't have that many to start with. I've spoken to a lot of Hispanic constituents out there, and they're asking the question, why are there not any Hispanic staff members, or why, or lack of? So what are we doing? It seems like it's just, we just kind of go through the motions here. And the question came up, and this board challenged, or I guess the board challenged the process in the least intrusive way to me, was saying that, I've heard it said that maybe there's not candidates out there. And then I heard someone say, maybe we're not looking in the right place. So what are we doing with that?
Well, first of all of our policies and procedures are being followed as that's just the way it's being done. We have had candidate or employees of all races, genders, and all areas who have resigned, and we have hired candidates from all races and genders and so forth. Are we specifically targeting a particular racial makeup? We are certainly looking for as diverse a candidate pool as we can. We are seeking candidates from any, unfortunately right now, the candidate pool is light in almost all areas, not just take out whether we're looking for a specific race or a specific person. There are fewer candidates all around. Are there, quote, minority, unquote, candidates? Absolutely, there are. And I'm not alleging that we don't have candidates of all shapes and sizes applying for us. What I will say is we have fewer candidates overall. And I will say that there's diversity in what you heard read off this evening. So, I don't have exact percentages and numbers. I wasn't prepared for that this evening, but I can put some of that together. I did that last year. I can put that together again this year.
Could you do that and bring it to the committee as a whole, or give it to Dr. Coglanies? And I really would appreciate if you can step up on that, because that's been dear to so many people's heart. And I heard someone say something to the fact that the demographics, I think we have 62% thereabout, give or take a percentage of minorities in the district, but yet the numbers of employees and administrators is not reflective of those, don't even come close. And I know that's almost impossible, but we can do our due diligence to try to make it happen. If we don't try, we will not get, what's the old saying? If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And that's nothing here.
Mr. Brown, when we met with Dr. Coglanies, that is one of the things that we stressed that we wanted her to help us with, was to get out there and help us recruit more minorities.
I appreciate
So
And we do
that
have
is something that we talked about.
We do recruit or hire a higher percentage of minority applicants than there are actually in the applicant pool. So for instance, and don't take these numbers to the bank, if we have a 30% minority applicant ratio, we've been hiring closer to 40% or higher. And that's not necessarily the main thing we're looking for. That's just the quality of candidates we're getting. And we're focusing on getting the best candidates in front of our students. And we do want to make sure that we make that as diverse as possible.
I hate to, I'm going to get off my high horse after this. And I heard that word, that buzzword you said,
the best. You know, I'm not the best board member. I'm sure you're not the best HR person, but you're qualified, and I think I'm qualified. So I would expect the best qualified person you can get at that time. But I don't think I know our teachers are good, but do we have the best teachers? What is that? It's very subjective. How do you define best? Okay, we need qualified people. They qualify. So if you have a 3.5 here and a 3.4 here, what does that mean? So we want qualified teachers. We want qualified, good employees. Okay, and do the best you could to make that happen.
And I want to add, it's not just about hiring, but also.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
So it's not just about hiring, but it's also retaining. Like Mr. Brown mentioned, you know, when I think about the last 12 months, actually, we've lost some prominent African Americans in this district, and that's just being honest. We have. My question is, when they leave, are we doing exit surveys, period, when our employees leave? I know a lot of districts implement that practice, at least to understand why employees are leaving. And I'm gonna mention, we received a resignation from an African-American employee that said in their letter that they experienced racism in this district. That disturbs me. We've had community members from different backgrounds, different races come to this board and say that there is racism in this district. It's been stated, and let's just put it out there. And I'm glad that you all have had the conversation, but that's the reality of it. Whether you agree or not, that is the perception, and that's the reality for certain individuals. So what are we doing about that? What are we gonna do about it? If we're being honest and this is what's going on and this is what's being said, we have to address that. I don't like reading a letter where someone says they felt discriminated against because of the color of their skin. Just like I don't like reading a letter if someone felt discriminated against because of any reason. But we can't just keep continuing like it's not being said, and we just have not addressed that as a board, as a district, and it's something that we really need to address, and not only address, do something about it. And look into these accusations or realities or whatever and find out what the heck is going on.
Are exit interviews done? Or is it
There are
building
exit
by
interviews
building?
done. Some employees do opt out of them. And, you know, there are some employees, especially over the summer, who leave or who resign but never report back to the district. So we do send things, but we don't always get them back.
Thank you.
So, Lyle, what percentage do you think actually fill out exit interviews? And I mean, at this point, why aren't we taking the information from them then? I mean, if we're only getting 50%, that's better than zero. So I guess I'm asking how many do you think we're getting percentage-wise, and what are we doing with that information?
I mean, I would say probably a little less than half respond. We do look at the information, and the information, we get just quite a few back that they left for other opportunities, play things closer to home, a spouse was being transferred, those types of things. We have had some come back with concerns about pay and benefits. We've had some come back, as has been pointed out, with other concerns such as I wasn't treated fairly, I was discriminated against, those kind of things. And we certainly do look into everything, but once we, if we can't get to the facts, as we often can't, it's hard to investigate sometimes. But we do investigate to the, as far as we can possibly investigate when we get something of concern back in an exit interview. Some people, some people do not fill out or complete all questions in the exit interview. They might say, I enjoyed my time here, I did these, leave out why they left. So we may not get full information. It's an open-ended document, and they put down what they feel comfortable putting down. So this resignation being referred to, I would certainly like to hear more about what happened and what occurred. But again, without that information, it does get difficult sometimes to get to the crux of the problem.
And may I ask who the "we" is? When you say "we certainly look at it and we do this," may I ask who that "we" is?
Well, I mean, HR is going to spearhead that, but we do have an investigative process, uniform grievance procedure that is under the board policies, and certainly every member of administration, depending on whether it's their area that's involved, participates in that process, and they investigate the parts that are relevant to their area. So if a complaint comes in about a particular administrator, we're obviously not going to have that administrator investigate it.
So are those findings then reported to the superintendent?
Under the policy, yes.
Okay, so if you receive a complaint or on an exit interview or whatever, I just want to make sure I understand in my own little pea brain up here. Somebody does an exit interview and they state that they were discriminated against. However, you do the investigation. Is the superintendent informed along the way how this is going, or just at the end of it, or hit or miss? How is that process?
The superintendent, the past year or so, this is not necessarily the way it has always taken place, because we've had times without a superintendent. However, the superintendent under the policy is made aware of the investigation. The investigation takes place. It does ultimately, when the findings are reached, go to the superintendent under the policy, and the superintendent then renders a decision. Now, we'll make a recommendation to the superintendent, but the superintendent can take that recommendation or reinvestigate, do whatever the superintendent chooses to do. If the person who files the complaint feels that that's not sufficient, then they can, that the superintendent was not fair with them, they can then appeal to the Board of Education. So, and then depending on the circumstances, it can go beyond that under certain conditions to the Regional Office of Education or the State Board of Education, or ultimately they can take it to the court system. We very rarely have any come to the Board of Education level. Usually at the superintendent level, they get resolved one way or another. That's the general procedure, and I believe it's 2260, I think, is the number for the procedure. So if you want to read through that, it's a relatively brief procedure, but it does spell out the steps that need to happen and the timelines. The timelines can be flexible because at times it takes time to get all of the information and find everything you need to find.
Okay, and I have one final question. What do we do with those results? Do we have a spreadsheet or whatever? Are we tallying that somehow to see we're addressing a specific type of issue over and over and over? Maybe not with the same person. I'm just saying throughout the district. Is there any way that we're tracking that?
I don't have a spreadsheet per se. We do have investigative files. We don't have a tremendous number of investigations over the course of a year into charges of racism or those types of things. We very rarely have those complaints filed. We have, again, I want to be clear, we'll investigate a complaint. We will, if somebody doesn't wish to press a formal complaint, we will look into it as far as we can go, but without facts or information to take us somewhere, sometimes we can't get the whole problem resolved. But if a complaint is pressed, yes, we do have a file that is kept on that, and if we're seeing a certain, a large number of issues come up in a particular building, and we're certainly going to check into that a lot closer.
Thank you.
So the resignation that I was referring to, I think, was sent last week.
I think it was sent on Friday.
So have you all started that conversation?
Not
of
yet.
Looking into why this person is saying that they were discriminated against, if that's the procedure, right?
Yeah, I have not made contact with her yet. I intend to. It's been kind of a crazy couple days, but I had intended on getting in touch with her to find out if there was something specific she wanted to refer to. In that particular case, there were some allegations that were made that I certainly would be very interested in understanding more about.
Okay, and with this process, because what you're asking, Janine, I don't know anything about that. And that's why I was asking, do we have an exit survey? Because I feel that as a board member, that's information I would want to know. If you're finding that something's coming up multiple times or, because it's good feedback for us.
Definitely.
So if we have people leaving the district and they're stating negative things about this district, which has been said, near, far, and wide, we need to be doing something about it, and we need to be tracking and figuring out what's going on.
I've never worked for a company that hasn't done that, so I agree. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Any other questions? Roll. No, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Mr. Albrecht,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Nay.
Dr. Hall,
Nay.
Mrs. Root. Aye. Mr. Teray,
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith is an aye. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Old business?
I have one old business. How are we coming on getting that air conditioning man? Did we ever get somebody, summer's almost over and they're going to be in school in these hot buildings? And where are we at in this process? It's been a year now. And like to make sure the few buildings that we do have air conditioned, that they keep it going.
We have not hired anybody into the position yet, but we have somebody working with us that could very well slide into the position, and he's shown interest. I'm talking with Lyle and Ken about that right now. I don't know how much more I can say about that, but he's summer help. He's in there working. Ray is very comfortable working with this young man. He would need more schooling, and that's some of our conversation is going to be, are we willing to pay for some of the school? If not, what kind of time do we give him? Because of course his pay will be based on that. Not, it wouldn't be the full HVAC pay, because it would be more of an apprenticeship program. And I'm excited about this guy because he's our worker, and he's caught on to everything we've showed him. And other than that, like I say, I have to have the conversation with HR and Ken to see where we can all level out and end up on the same playing field.
Okay, I think that's probably something that should be discussed in closed session then. We don't want to talk about any specific employees in open session.
Okay, so you have a potential, is the bottom line here.
Yeah, he's and we've been through a couple processes and
Yeah, I know, we've had some people bail out and others that didn't work out.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because it's getting close to opening these doors.
Oh, we really want somebody too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you may want to stay up there. He may want to stay up there. He may be able to answer my question or concern or old business. I have asked several times about where we are with the 6th grade addition, that project, the cost.
Middle school?
Yeah, 6th grade, well, middle school addition. And I just don't know where we are with that. It's been 2 years. I did a drive-by the other day. I see some trees that was newly planted maybe over the last year. It's either they have died or some are dying. And the sign, we were supposed to have a new sign. I see the conduit and the cable sticking out of the ground. I don't know where we are with that. Did we go after the contractor's performance bond?
Probably more of a question
Well,
for
it's
Mr.
kind of
Surma
a
than.
both here.
Sure.
That's why I said, where in the heck are we? This is the last time I'm asking. It's been at least 4 times. We haven't got closure on
Here's
that.
what I would say to you that I can't say, and I apologize ahead of time. We are in legal negotiations with them right now. We're very close on that. I was just on the phone today with our legal counsel about this. I'm hoping that in August, we will have some type of settlement.
And we have our legal update, quarterly legal update in August.
Okay, does that settlement at least, the task, are we finished with all the tasks? I haven't been inside.
Punch
Do we
list?
have more work to do on the inside?
There is some work that still needs to be done as part of the punch list. That's part of the negotiations that is taking place.
How many items on the punch list do you know offhand?
There may be, 8
Yeah, somewhere
Probably
around 8 to
in that
10 punch
area of
list
8
items.
and a lot of them are
Um,
more aesthetic.
Yes.
I can answer this, as far as the sign goes, we're looking at getting, we're shooting for a date of between August 1st and 7th to get that sign in.
So before
This-
school starts.
Before school starts,
Right.
yes. And then,
I know that was one of the things that we took back and decided to do either in-house or hire somebody else to do.
Right, that goes
Because of the
outside of the
issues that we
contract.
had with the, okay.
Well, why aren't we getting the updates on this? I know we get litigation updates.
I believe there
from Loud.
was something in an FYI a few weeks ago, I think.
I don't remember
I don't
seeing
recall
that.
it.
I don't
It might
remember
have
if we
been a
did
while,
or
you might be
not.
correct.
We've been going back and forth with this. I mean, really, just about every other week, we're going back and forth, and all I can say is that we're close.
Right. Can you put an update in Monday's
I
FYI,
can do
please?
that, yes.
And one thing I learned in my corporate world, you don't want to have management surprise. We don't want to surprise management.
Mhm.
We are your boss, and we don't want to surprise us. Give us the information.
Okay,
More is better.
okay,
Okay, appreciate it.
sure.
And the last thing I have, I think this is old business. You can have a seat. I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Keith, you're a good man. Thank you, sir. Okay. Dr. Cognities, I appreciate you stepping up to the plate, even though I was not in favor of an interim superintendent. That first impression means a lot. I appreciate you came up to me and you greeted me well. So I really appreciate that. However, this plan that we have going forward that the majority of the board voted for, I'm totally against it. I just think it's just going to have a negative impact on the district, especially African Americans, for years to come. And again, I'm not going to get into all the details. A lot of the details has been shared, and I'm still trying to dissect all of the small components of this plan. One thing that we did have your predecessor as an interim superintendent. Again, I think as a board, we're slow in the process of getting a permanent superintendent. I know it's down the road. We're kind of looking for that night on a white horse to come through our doors and be the perfect superintendent for us. And if we think you are doing a good job, I would really seek the board to hire you as a permanent superintendent if it comes down to that. But in the interim, for the interim, I would like you to kind of focus on us some strategies. How was our strategies implemented to move forward this plan? What type of data was driven? I know our assistant superintendent of curriculum was involved, was engaged heavily, but this is something that the superintendent, it should come down from the top. We hire you. You are the only employee that we hire. And I really, really challenge you from my heart to engage yourself in this process. Even though this board voted to move this process or this plan forward, that you engage yourself as much as you could and all the power you have, because this is a vote once it gets to that point to really move it and vote on it, not just to move it forward, but when it comes to money and all of that it's going to be too late. So if you can get with the powers to be, engage yourself and see where we are with our strategies, if we have any. I don't think any one of us can name those strategies of this district.
I appreciate your support and your confidence in me in moving this forward. This facility process is very important, and it is a priority in my time here to get this done well, to get input, and to make sure that it's well communicated.
Please. And comes with this is a lot of history. You heard small tidbits
I'm
of it
hearing
today.
that.
A lot of
Absolutely.
history.
Sure.
And I don't know, again, and I asked the board president, did we talk to our council as this plan will affect the minorities who did file the lawsuit years ago, and the consent decree is so-called expired 2008, but yet it can be revisited at any time. And do we want to put our board, this district, into a position where there's lawsuits and all of that? So I want to make sure that
Understand.
those questions has been answered from our council, that, hey, it's good to go, or expect a lawsuit. I haven't heard that as well. So please, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other new business?
I have new
Or,
business.
excuse me, I'm sorry. Any other old
Are we
business?
old?
Okay, new business?
Yes. First, I want to say, as much as I enjoy sitting next to Mr. Brown here and serving with him, I am not Mr. Brown. For like the third time, this has.
You're a doctor on TV? You're fine.
But I would like the correct nameplate put in front of me. This has happened quite a few times. But anyway,
I was wondering where that was going.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you can retire.
I just want to reiterate, just making sure, we've heard a lot of ball dropping. And I know the situation we've been in with interim superintendents, not having a permanent superintendent. Dr. Coglanese, I welcome you as well. But again, you do have your hands full, and there's some things that need to be tightened up, some systems that need to be put in place. And like I said, even today, some of these things that are not getting done and are getting done later, it needs to stop.
And full
And
time.
so we really need
Not
to
limited to 100 days.
tighten
So-
up. We pay some great salaries, 6 figures, and things should be done in reflection of that. So I just wanted to, say that. I have a couple of updates. As the board knows, I've been placed on the professional review panel, statewide professional review panel, one of 2 board members chosen in the state to review the equitable school funding formula, along with other colleagues, legislators, superintendents, to look at the implementation. Thank you. The implementation of the new funding formula. So I did attend our first meeting a couple of weeks ago. I wanted the board to know that. And also in that meeting, it was basically just an introduction meeting where we were going over the purpose of the panel and all those things. 28 people from the entire state. But one of the things I wanted to point out, I did address with them, including the state superintendent, Tony Smith, this issue with equity and race that's going on locally in our districts. And I pressed them to create a committee statewide that would look at these barriers to our students' success. When we have issues, in particular, there's no secret that there's an African American achievement gap that's affecting just about every single district in our state. And if we have a group of students that are not as successful as others, that's a problem for everybody. And so I'm proud to say, as a result of that conversation, there has been a statewide committee created to look at equity and race and how we can better serve all students and put money where it needs to go to ensure that all students are successful. It's, like I said, it's only 2 board members, but, there's a few legislators. I don't know if you're familiar with Senator Monee, which is the one that pushed the equitable funding. Exactly. Yes. In Springfield. No. But it's just different people that are involved in education, basically. I also wanted to let the board know, if you haven't read your ISB magazine, I was asked to contribute to an article that is entitled The Miseducation of African American Students. So I did contribute to that. Some of you might not know my dissertation was on the achievement gap. And so that article is out. It's in the current Illinois Association of School Boards.
When did that come out?
I got mine today.
Oh, okay. I might be in the
It's also online. You can look it up there as well.
Yeah, can I just interject? Somebody sent me a text, but I'm not going to say who it was, but they said, "Hi, Mr. Brown, please pass along my congratulations to Dr. Hall for a very impressive article she co-wrote with her colleagues in this month's edition of the Illinois School Board Journal." Then he said, "I hope you are doing well." I think we all know this person, but I will not share it to the public.
Mr. Brown, was that just sent? Was that just sent?
Yeah, it was sent to me right around 6 o'clock. I just saw it.
Just be careful when we have our communication devices out because it does violate OMA. So we have to be careful about that.
Well, you read it, you didn't.
Yeah. Point taken. Point well taken.
Because it can be FOIA'd, so.
Well, you can have his phone. You can take all the responsibility you want. Believe me, I'm not a texter. I don't take it. Take it. My gas bill is on here. I know.
Congratulations, Dr. Hall.
Well done.
Anything else? I do want to say I appreciate all of your legal updates that you give us all the time, so thank you. Any other new business? Okay, we have no need for a closed session, I don't believe, Mr. Neal. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Thank you, students. Thank you. Excellent. Keep it up. You're our future leaders.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.